to read something from Margaret for Ken. A flower has fallen, but the roots that he planted remain in the earth that he tilled, for other flowers to grow. Ken drove himself even when health became fragile, and cough a constant drain. This island where he lived and worked and had his being must under law protect its rural amenities, which surely include the remnant of a forest once abundant on western shores of Canada, but now almost completely sacrificed to developers' ambitions, unique to commonplace. On a trust island, he tried to turn the tide. Ken realized the value of this remnant to the nation, when backed by learning, in time, another Cathedral Grove, bringing visitors to feed the economy. Did he feel too deeply for this latest attempt to change the bylaws? We only know that his caring lives on in the special places he has helped to preserve, for always making Linda and his family proud in their sorrow. Ken attended every trust meeting. His presence is still there, symbolized by his empty chair. From Margaret Griffith.
Some can't be as brief as others. And Ken Trowsdale has come from off the island and has some things he wants to tell us about Ken and his music. And Ken.
Hi. Cam is short for Campbell. And I live at the north end of the island, actually. And I've not met most of you, I know. But my home has been on Galiano since 1971. I apologize for the notes, but at my stage of the game, I need all the help I can get. I'm here this afternoon to celebrate the life of the only one of my heroes I've had the good fortune to know personally. A man who had a major impact on my musical life as a professional violinist in Vancouver. But before I tell you a story about Ken and his contributions to the world of music, I want to show you several objects, musical objects, one of which is central to what follows. This is a contemporary violin bow. It came into general usage around 1800. But before this particular design of bow appeared, there had been a quite different kind of string instrument bow that had been used for the preceding 2 centuries. This is a Baroque bow. You've been hearing about Baroque bows. And you can see some of the obvious differences. The Baroque bow is shorter. It has a different shape. And while this is more difficult to see, it's made of different wood. Most importantly, this bow can do things that a contemporary bow cannot do. In fact, it was this type of bow that became the engine for a musical revolution that sustained itself through 2 centuries before the appearance of the contemporary bow. It's this kind of bow which plays a major role in the story I'm going to tell you about Ken, Sir John Eliot Gardner, the CBC, and the strings of the Vancouver Chamber Orchestra. It begins 35 years ago in Vancouver when the professional careers of 2 exceptional men intersect. Ken Millard, as I'm sure you know and as you've heard, is a former American scientist who had immigrated to Canada after abandoning a promising university career in physics. You may not know, some of you may not know, that he had retrained as a professional luthier, a creator of stringed instruments and the bows which are necessary to play them. This rather unusual career transition is accomplished successfully by a happy combination of Ken's talents and the complete support of Linda, his wife. Over the next 5 years, he develops an international reputation as a master bowmaker. John Elliott Gardner, now Sir John Elliott, is an English conductor who subsequently gains international recognition as one of the finest orchestral conductors of his generation. 1980, Gardner is appointed resident conductor of the CBC's Vancouver Chamber Orchestra. We have him until 1984. He's a superb musician and a major conducting talent. But there is a really substantial problem. Gardner loves the music written before 1800, known broadly as the Baroque period. And he wants us to perform this music in the style of the period. Unfortunately, we don't have Baroque instruments, nor, and this is the crucial component, none of us has ever held a Baroque bow in our hand and know absolutely nothing about how to work with it. We try to adapt our contemporary bows to the very different demands of Baroque performance practice, but it just doesn't work. Now, we didn't just perform Baroque repertoire, but because of John Elliott's superb understanding and interest in the music of this period, something had to be done, because we couldn't do what he wanted us to do with our contemporary bows. So about a month into Gardner's tenure, the producer of the orchestra talked to me about the bow problem. I was surprised to learn, and actually shocked would be a better word, that there was a Baroque bowmaker living in Burnaby, because I didn't know that there was anyone in Canada, let alone British Columbia, who could craft an acceptable violin bow, contemporary or otherwise. So I was asked as concertmaster of the orchestra to go and talk to this Burnaby bowmaker. That was when I first met Ken and Linda Millard. It was an exceptional evening. We talked for hours about instruments, bows, Baroque repertoire, and its performance. And Ken showed me several of his bows that were in various stages of creation. I reported back to the producer that not only was I impressed with Ken Millard and his skill as a luthier, but that here was the answer to at least a part of our problem. The other part of the problem was that string instruments bows are expensive, as we've heard, and many of us had gone into Hawk to buy the contemporary bows we were using. CBC, in its then wisdom, and with your tax dollars, decided it would equip the string sections of our orchestra with a complete set of Baroque bows crafted by Ken Millard. Wow. By 1981, we had a Baroque bow in our cases. Mind you, not everyone was thrilled with the task of learning new playing techniques, but for those of us who were intrigued by what we could do musically with Ken's bows, it was one of those artistic experiences of a lifetime. Should you want to hear the result, there is a CBC SM5000 series recording of a work by the Baroque master Francesco Gemignani, quite appropriately called The Enchanted Forest, conducted by John Elliott and performed by the strings of the Vancouver Chamber Orchestra using Ken's bows. It's still available from Amazon. Okay, fast forward. Ken and Linda moved lock, stock, and barrel to Galiano as permanent members of the community. Ken builds a workshop to create his Baroque bows, which are increasingly in demand worldwide. And then, about 1987, as we've heard, we come to an unusual confluence of events, both legendary now and factual then and now, which changed the history of Galiano Island and its community. The story goes that a retired dentist just living down the way here on Porlier Pass just happens to be at Coon Bay The same day, the Mac Blow loggers arrive to start clear cutting. And the story goes that the doctor simply stands in front of the chainsaws and says, "No, you can't cut here." Now, by this time, Ken Millard, in his Galiano workshop, has gained international recognition as a master Baroque bowmaker. He has a 2-year waiting list for his bows. But now he has the physical problem you've heard. He has inhaled microscopic fibers from the extremely hard yet resilient wood he has had to use to make his bows. He has developed a serious lung problem, and he has to stop his work as a master bowmaker. It's the end of his second successful professional career, but as things turn out, it's the beginning of yet another. Well, the rest, as you know, is history. The history of our island. So on this Thanksgiving Sunday, when we gather together to remember and celebrate a life well lived, I end my personal story about Ken with words from my favorite poet. What thou lovest best remains. The rest is dross.